A cut suddenly appeared on Jin Waikyung's arm, and a small wound also appeared on his face. He cried out in surprise as blood began to spurt. As he slowly raised his sword, he silently cursed himself, realizing he'd used too much energy fighting the fierce mountain swords. He braced himself as the first elder rushed toward him, sword in hand, preparing to block the attack. This is going to be difficult, he thought to himself. Suddenly, a different sword rushed in between the two of them. The first elder glanced at the newcomer, a cold expression on his face, and swung his own sword, shattering the others. Blood spurted from the other person's wound like a waterfall. Jin Waikyung was shocked when he saw who it was. The injured person trembled, clutching a wound on their stomach. The first elder pulled out his bloody sword and spoke in a cold, mocking voice. Law advisor, you annoying brat. Do you seriously want to die? The family advisor, trembling and holding a broken sword, accused the elders of betraying their own family. The first elder just smirked and said, "Oh, so what, you are a warrior, master of the Jin family," the advisor yelled, spitting out a mouthful of blood. He pointed his sword at the first elder and ordered him to stop, his voice shaking. Suddenly, a shocking scream rang out, "It's Jin Waikyung." Several Jin family members began shouting, calling for the advisor. The first elder looked at the whispering crowd, the family's leaders, elite warriors, and officials, and thought how disappointing they were. The fat man and the wire-bearded man, now in battle, yelled, "What the hell is this?" The bushy-bearded man was stunned, seeing his two dead comrades. "So, you guys have really been lying to us all this time," he thought. Another person gritted his teeth, ashamed that he had helped them without knowing the truth. A man with long brown hair wondered when they planned to destroy the entire family. A second later, everyone was armed with swords, knives, and spears. "Kill all those traitors," they screamed. The three people with the first elder retreated into a group to observe the situation. The first elder looked at the group of people charging toward him, thinking, this is truly indescribable stupidity. Jin Waikyung stood still, watching them rush forward. He could hear them yelling, "Today's the day that you depart for death." Even Wei Pang could hear them. "Damn it. Show them the power of the Jin family." Jin Waikyung then turned to the other group of people, raising his voice loudly. "Listen to me," he bellowed. "The Mount Sword Hang sect is the enemy of the Jin family." He sternly explained that the elders had meticulously planned all these events. "We must use all our strength to repel them together," he said. "To become a martial arts master, one must practice their sword and arm muscles thoroughly. You must go through an excruciating amount of training in order to prove your strength and not rely on deceptive measures like assassinations. You must always uphold your honor in order to not bring any shame or dirt to your name. But it is because we have lived too long." A handful of soil flew toward the first elder. Panicked, he quickly turned to avoid getting hit in the face. On the other side, Jin Taekyung ordered his group to continuously throw handfuls of dirt and mud at the first elder. The first elder quickly threw the mud away and thought, "Throwing mud? I've lived for 80 years, and this is the first time I've witnessed a battle like this." A group of people bent down, some digging, some grabbing, some passing the mud. The first elder groaned inwardly, thinking that even the weaker factions he had fought never gave up like this. But still, the crowd kept shouting, "Don't stop." Jin Taekyung's subordinates continuously threw dirt at the first elder, who struggled to avoid the mud bullets. Jin Taekyung kept commanding, "Don't stop." The first elder thought angrily, "You told me they were martial artists in the elder's head?" At that moment, two words echoed in his mind, "pathetic." He was extremely angry, his eyes red with rage. Jin Taekyung shouted, "These idiots." Mu Jin looked at them, throwing insults, then angrily stomped his feet and spoke up. "What the hell are you doing?" The first elder heard this and sighed with relief. Wait, he thought, it seems there's still one guy left. But a second later, Mu Jin picked up a huge rock from somewhere and held it up. He said firmly, "Do you think mud is enough? We have to mix more." Hearing this, the first elder was speechless. He wasn't paying attention, and a mud bullet hit him directly in the face. Jin Taekyung looked on in surprise. Mu Jin was also stunned. The mud and a stone fell from the elder's face to the ground. He suddenly gasped for a few seconds. Now, the elder was truly enraged. He coated his sword with mana and laughed hysterically. His eyes turned red, and his face was full of murderous intent. He spoke in a cold, threatening voice. "I hope you are mentally prepared for what's to come." When Jin Taekyung's teammates heard the first elder's menacing voice, they started sweating in fear. Jin Taekyung dejectedly looked at Mu Jin and said, "You shouldn't have thrown rocks at him." Mu Jin stammered, "But I'm not the only one who did that." The first elder didn't wait for anyone, he immediately charged forward. Seeing this, Jin Taekyung quickly told everyone to step back. They followed his instructions and kept throwing mud at the elder. The group of people who had been wrongly accused of being traitors also quickly picked up mud, stuffed it with rocks, and threw it at the first elder. This time, the first elder simply used his sword to clear away the mud. The whole crowd gasped in disbelief. Mu Jin was the first to flee, screaming in terror. At the same time, Jin Taekyung grabbed his collar. The first elder's mana-coated sword pierced the exact spot where Mu Jin had been standing. Jin Taekyung found a spear from somewhere and threw Mu Jin backward. "Run," he shouted, leaving himself alone to face the first elder. The elder's sword grazed Jin Taekyung's right hand, and blood quickly flowed out. Jin Taekyung cried out in pain. The elder looked at him menacingly. You dare to stop me? Aren't you afraid? Jin Taekyung turned and ran, replying, if I told you I was scared, would you let me live? The first elder followed, raising his sword to stab Jin Taekyung in the back. Oh, I can't believe it, the elder said sarcastically. It seems you need to learn how to behave first. As the Manarap sword was about to hit him, Jin Taekyung's eyes widened in despair. I'm going to die, he thought. Just as the sword was about to strike, another sword blocked it. The elder frowned at the newcomer, then jumped back. Jin Taekyung fell to the ground with a thud. Jin Waikyung pointed his sword at the elder and said, behaving impolitely is normal for a young teenager. He stood in front of Jin Taekyung to protect him. He looked at the elder and said coldly, why do you want to kill my younger brother? The first elder stared at the two brothers but didn't respond. Jin Taekyung sat up, looked at Jin Waikyung, and smiled, thinking, I knew he was still alive. Jin Waikyung saw that his brother was safe, winked to reassure him, and then happily said, what do you think? Your older brother is very cool, right? Jin Taekyung smiled back, secretly happy and thinking, he hasn't changed at all.